All right, time to talk a little bit about the movie business in our own backyard. Time to talk a little Hollywood South. Time to talk Celtic Studios. And joining us for that conversation, the new Executive Director of Marketing and Operations, Kevin O'Neill. Kevin, welcome aboard, man. How are you?
I'm great, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Now, glad to have you on here. First and foremost, congrats. Big new gig. That's awesome.
Very excited.
Let's talk a little bit about what attracted you to the gig in the first place.
Well, believe it or not, I've been trying to get out of the production world. I've been an assistant director in entertainment for 20 plus years, and it's a pretty demanding job. Mm-hmm. I believe our current mortality rate for an assistant director is 55 years old. Mm-hmm. So basically, about a decade ago, I started trying to think of other ideas that I could transition out of the AD world into a more present in life world, I guess you could say.
Okay.
So got my real estate license 5 years ago and still got pulled back into the business. And basically the stars just kind of aligned this last October. My wife and I found out that we were pregnant for the first time.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yep. Very excited for that. And then 2 weeks later, Mr. Bayham had departed Celtic for his new gig in San Antonio. And I was offered the new job as Director of Marketing and Operations at Celtic. So, talked it over with the wife, thought about it, and everything just seemed perfect. Mm-hmm. So the only stipulation was I was working on a show down in New Orleans called Carry On, which was a 55-day feature shoot. So I had to finish that gig before I could start this new gig. So Chris Lightfoot, who's our Director of Operations, held down the fort in the interims until I could officially start on January 20th.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So let's talk early plans. Like let's start by talking about where Celtic is right now. I mean, you come out of the pandemic, there was a surge of people looking for studio space and whatnot. The movie business journey in Louisiana has been, I don't want to say unique, but definitely not the norm.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about the status of where Celtic is right now.
Well, right now, I mean, we're like everybody else in the business. I mean, normally it's a little slow. We start calming down in the holiday season in December, and then things start to pick up again, February, March, productions start moving in and prepping. So that's our natural season. Mm-hmm. The entertainment business is obviously very unique where, it's built of unions, and we do have an upcoming possible writer's strike, which, you never know if they're going to strike or not.
Right.
So, which could affect it either way. I mean, there could be a lot of production trying to get greenlit before the impending strike may happen. So we don't know. We're all kind of cautiously optimistic. As far as the studio is concerned, Aaron Bayham left some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just trying to, grow some legs and feet to put in those shoes. The unique thing about my situation, because what brought me to Baton Rouge originally was Battle Los Angeles back in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, that was I had worked in New Orleans on, Just My Luck back in 2002 and Cirque du Freak, Vampire's Assistant, Blonde Ambition, and Shreveport. But Battle LA was my first time in Baton Rouge, and I just fell in love with it. I'm from a small country town in Central California, Rio Grande, and it's big in agriculture, engineering. It just happens to be near the beach, Pismo Beach, which you probably recognize from Bugs Bunny cartoons. So anyway, when I came to Baton Rouge, I just kind of fell in love with the town because it's a small college town, much like where I'm from. San Luis Obispo is an agricultural engineering school just north of where I'm from.
Okay.
And it's got that same kind of college town vibe. So fell in love with that, met my wife on Battle Los Angeles, and basically packed up and moved from LA a year later. And I've been here ever since for 13 years.
Very cool stuff. Are there, with where Celtic is right now, are there project, like how used is the facilities right now? I mean, you said it's kind of the down period till, this month, next month, things start to pick back up. Is there a lot on the books?
Nothing tight on the books right now. I will be making some trips out to LA in the next couple weeks, trying to stir up some business. Mm-hmm. But like I said, that's normal for our industry. We do have a lot of tenants that we host there, and my goal is to try to bring more production-friendly tenants. We have Sam Clater with Crafty Apes.
Yes.
Pixel Magic's there. We have, I'm sorry, not Pixel Magic. I'm mixing up my things. But we also have like Jerry Gilbert who does our post. We have a full post screening room facility. Okay. So I'm just trying to add more tenants that can kind of complement the industry. We also have people like Luciana's Massage, which is a great massage. We know people in entertainment working those 16-hour days love massages. And we also have a newly opened commissary space with a full kitchen that we're looking to rent out. So we'll be looking for possible tenants for that.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so we're probably just trying to get creative,
Yeah.
with the ancillary support.
And it kind of opens up the different professions that all fall under the movie business. I mean, you mentioned four very different fields within there.
Right.
Between like Crafty, we've had Crafty Apes on the show before. Between the special effects world, the production world, I wouldn't have even thought about massage, and of course, food is always going to be big here in Louisiana. I talked with Kevin O'Neill from Celtic Studios. The big win last year, or the most talked about thing from Celtic last year, was National Treasure. Are there any updates as to where that's at right now as far as coming back?
I don't believe so, Brian. From what I've heard, the script doesn't tend to, lend to coming back to Baton Rouge. So the rumors I'm hearing is they're not coming back. I know they've folded their sets up, and that's usually a good sign that they're not returning. I heard some rumors that they might be going to Canada. I'm not sure, which is funny because back in 2000, when I first got in the business, it was all about runaway production to Canada because, like you said earlier, the productions follow the incentives.
No, they absolutely do, and
Right.
we're going to get into that in just a minute. So Canada, I mean, it's
been happening for a long time, and
Yeah.
it's the tough thing about Canada or any European country is it's really tough for Americans to work up there. If you have a production that goes up there and you have like a first assistant director, you have to match that with a Canadian assistant director, so it can become
oh wow,
quite expensive.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Now the studios themselves were built out pretty well for National Treasure. What's that like? What kind of turnaround is that like? How difficult is that to take what was built out to be? We saw I got to do the tour, so saw the big old airplane,
Right.
saw the saw the house, which I'm still saying was in Broadmoor, but see everything that's built out within there. What's the turnaround like on that for a completely new project? If something like National Treasure packs up and leaves, what is that? Is it a difficult process? Is that a quick little? Let's get some carpenters in here and just get it done.
Yeah, it's all very efficient. I mean, you'd be very surprised. It is a science, but basically, it's on average, depending on the size of the show, it can be 2 to 3 months prep. So the office moves in, construction, set deck, art department, all those people start building sets, and so 2 to 3 months prep, and then a shoot can be anywhere from 1 month, 3 month. I just got off a 7 month. And then wrap out is usually month to 2 months. It's a pretty quick breakdown.
Okay.
And then depending on what they're doing with the sets, they'll fold them up, stash them, and then see what happens down the road.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, you got a plane and a house at the ready. So, like, what is it? Do we look for something that matches that, or what is Baton Rouge's niche as far as the film industry is concerned? We've seen a little bit of everything here. Is there something we're best at?
Well, I mean, number one, it's our infrastructure. I mean, Celtic Studios is the largest studio in the South at the moment, and so we have the infrastructure. I think personally, the big draw to Baton Rouge is it's a beautiful little town. There's lots of great restaurants and hotels to stay at, and I'm a country kid, so for me, I'm comfortable here. And New Orleans is an hour away. If you want to go down and have some fun, it's easy.
Right.
But I think it's just the charm of Baton Rouge and the many locations it offers. You have country, you have city. We have our large stages, which really pandered to movies like Crater that was here last year, the Disney show, which was huge green screen. We had the studios down to about 45, 50 degrees at all times. So we were shooting in the middle of summer, and everybody was dressed in heavy North Face jackets and beanies.
I mean, I would imagine in the middle of summer, that's a nice respite for a couple minutes, but then
nobody was really complaining.
Yeah, I would imagine. We're talking with Kevin O'Neill, who's heading up Celtic Studios. You mentioned Disney for a second. What's that like, working that relationship? I would assume that's something that they've come back to us a couple times now.
Right.
How tough is it to stay in their good graces?
Well, it just kind of depends on. It's all about communication, building relationships, and really, Katie Pryor, our Baton Rouge Film Commissioner, has been invaluable for Baton Rouge Film in her tenure here. So she's a big part of that.
Yeah.
She's a mover and shaker. She's getting out there and meeting people, and so I plan to work with her a lot as far as her making introductions for me. But yeah, she's been great.
You mentioned Canada a minute ago, and the conversation has to go here. This is not a one-off conversation. It's something we're going to talk about a lot. This coming legislative session, the film tax credits are going to be on the chopping block at the legislative session. If a recent project is already packed up and moved to Canada, we've talked about battles with Georgia in the past.
Right.
Walk me through a little bit of the importance of the package and how it pays off for us.
As far as the tax incentives?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in a nutshell, I think a lot of it, too, is informing our public about, what it means and what it brings to the state. But, we support 10,000 jobs in the state. Close to $1 billion is spent with Louisiana businesses per year. And our residents earn over $300 million in payroll a year. And I'm one of those residents. Now, as far as the incentives, what we're looking to do is try to extend the sunset. But, there's a lot of opportunity. The whole thing with Georgia was, they don't have a cap. So back in 2017, we lost some feature work because they're going to go where the cap's higher. There's no cap.
Right.
But what was the good thing about that is we've been getting a lot of episodic television and even some features too. I mean, I just got done with the feature. But we have a lot to offer here. And, and there's a lot of added incentives for shooting, like outside the New Orleans area and local scripts. So there's just a lot of benefits, and I think educating, which, we're working on, and that's our plan of attack. And then there's other stipulations that people aren't even aware of, like of the 35 public and community colleges in the state, 25 of those offer some form of digital media, film production and film studies, much like Katie Pryor, who teaches a course at LSU.
Yeah. Her and I were talking about that. And the growth potential here is not just in the businesses or not just in the professions that can work within Celtic Studios, but the spinoff of the application of the skill sets when used in other areas.
Which is another point that I'm trying to really attack, with the help of Katie Pryor and people like Patrick Mulhern, who I was so lucky to come there at Battle LA when Patrick Mulhern was there, and then see the Aaron Bayham tenure. So I've seen both tenures. I'm just coming from a different point because I'm actually coming from the industry.
Talk with Kevin O'Neill for one more minute here, and I'm going to wrap up where we started off. You said you're getting your legs underneath you. How do you feel right now? Do you feel like you're there? Do you feel like you've still got a lot of room to grow into it, or
lots?
You're comfortable?
Room. Just the beginning. I'm comfortable.
Okay,
but just a lot to learn. And I really want to rebrand without dollar signs. I like to say, and just like Aaron did, just give a professional. I can't think of the word. I'm blanking.
That's the writer's strike right there.
Yeah.
Without giving out any names, do you have a hit list in your mind of where you want to go, like who you want to attract here?
I have some old friends and mentors in the business that I'm planning to go see in the next couple of weeks, because I built a lot of relationships over the past 25 years. Now, just in a nutshell, I mean, I'm not going to name any names yet, but I'm sure you know who they are.
Well,
they're very...
Yes, they always appreciate their anonymity when they come here, which is another benefit that Baton Rouge sells.
Absolutely.
Is, you see the yellow signs all over town, and it's like, oh, look, there's something going on, and then that's the end of it.
Right.
It's not the chasing paparazzi that would be out in L.A. or whatever. In the meanwhile, like I said, first of many conversations. We've got business to get to in the very near future. So he is Kevin O'Neill, heading up Celtic Studios. We appreciate the time, man. Welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Absolutely. We got to